I didn't react when my son pushed me down the basement stairs. I just lay there in the darkness, tasting blood, listening to his footsteps fade away upstairs. My daughter-in-law's laughter echoed through the floorboards. "Maybe now he'll finally get the message," she said. I was 67 years old. My hip screamed. My wrist was definitely broken, but I didn't call out. I didn't bang on the door. I just pulled out my phone with my good hand and made one call. 3 words. That's all I said. "It's time, Marcus." Then I waited in the dark. You're probably wondering how I ended up here, lying at the bottom of my own basement stairs while my son and his wife laughed about it upstairs. Let me back up. My name is Vincent Caruso. For the last 15 years, I've been what you might call retired. I live in a modest house in Cleveland, spend my days reading, going to the gym, visiting my late wife's grave every Sunday. I'm the quiet old man at the corner table in the diner, the one who tips well and never causes trouble. But that wasn't always who I was. My son, Anthony, never knew what I did before he was born. His mother, my beloved Marie, she knew. She's the one who made me promise to leave that life behind when Anthony came into the world, and I did. I walked away clean, changed my name, moved cities, started fresh. For 35 years, I was just Vincent Caruso, devoted husband and father. Nobody from my old life knew where I was. That was the deal. Marie died 3 years ago. Cancer. It took her fast. Anthony grieved for maybe a month before his wife, Brittany, started talking about moving in with me. "You're all alone now, Dad," he said. "We can take care of you. And honestly, our apartment is too small. Now that Brittany's pregnant, I should have seen it then. But I was lonely. I missed Marie. I wanted family around. That was my first mistake." They moved in within 2 months. At first, it was fine. I gave them the master bedroom, took the smaller room upstairs. Brittany was sweet at first, always asking if I needed anything. Anthony seemed happy to have his childhood home back. Then the baby came, little Michael, and everything changed. "Dad, can you keep it down? The baby's sleeping. Dad, we need to use your car today. Ours is acting up again. Dad, Brittany's mother is coming to stay for a few weeks. Would you mind sleeping in the basement?" Each request got bigger, each demand more entitled, and I went along with it because they were family, because I didn't want to cause problems, because I thought this was what being a grandfather meant, making sacrifices. 6 months ago, I noticed something odd. Mail coming to the house addressed to companies I'd never heard of. Anthony being secretive with his laptop. Brittany suddenly wearing expensive jewelry. I'm old, but I'm not senile. I started paying attention. That's when I found the documents in Anthony's desk drawer. See, Brittany had gone out shopping, Anthony was at work, and I was watching baby Michael. The desk was right there in what used to be my study, and the drawer was slightly open. Inside, I found a quitclaim deed. My house, signed over to something called Summit Property Holdings, LLC. My signature on the bottom, except I never signed it. I stood there, holding that paper, and something cold settled in my chest. My son had forged my signature. My house, the house I'd bought with cash 40 years ago, the house where I'd raised him, where Marie had died, he was stealing it from me. I kept looking, found more documents. A reverse mortgage application, also forged. They'd borrowed against my house, $340,000. The lender wasn't a bank. The lender was a company called Apex Capital Solutions. I knew that name, or rather, I knew who really owned it. See, in my old life, before I was Vincent Caruso, I did work for certain people. People who don't advertise in the yellow pages. People who solve problems that can't be solved through legal channels. And Apex Capital Solutions was a front for the Volkov organization. Russian, brutal, not the kind of people you borrow from unless you're desperate or stupid. My son was both. I photographed everything with my phone. Put it all back exactly as I'd found it. Went downstairs and made dinner like nothing had happened. That night at the table, I watched them. Really watched them. Anthony wouldn't meet my eyes. Brittany kept checking her phone, smiling at something. Baby Michael babbled in his high chair, innocent to the rot surrounding him. "Dad," Anthony said, pushing his food around his plate. "Brittany and I have been talking. We think it might be time for you to consider assisted living." I took a bite of my meatloaf, chewed slowly. "Is that so?" "It's just that you're getting older," Brittany chimed in, her voice dripping with fake concern. "We worry about you. What if you fall? What if something happens when we're not home?" "I appreciate your concern. There's a really nice facility in Akron," Anthony continued. "We looked into it. They have activities, medical care, everything you'd need. How much does it cost?" They exchanged a glance. "Well, that's the thing, Dad. With the equity in the house, we could easily afford equity in my house." "Our house, technically," Brittany said, her mask slipping just a fraction. "Anthony grew up here. It's his childhood home." I set down my fork. "I see. That was 3 months ago." After that conversation, things escalated. They started treating me like an inconvenience in my own home. I wasn't allowed to have friends over. I had to ask permission to use the living room. Brittany complained about everything: the way I breathed too loud, the way I took too long in the bathroom, the way I existed in spaces she wanted. Anthony started staying out late, coming home drunk, getting aggressive. 2 weeks ago, he shoved me into a wall because I accidentally woke the baby, left a bruise on my shoulder the size of a grapefruit. Last week, Brittany accidentally served me food she knew I was allergic to. I spent the night in the emergency room. She apologized, said she forgot, but I saw the look in her eyes. They wanted me gone. Not just out of the house. Gone. And that brings us to tonight. Dinner was tense. I'd made pot roast, Marie's recipe. It was Sunday, which meant it had been exactly 3 years since she'd passed. I'd gone to her grave that morning like always, told her I was sorry. Sorry I'd let our son become this. "This is overcooked," Brittany said, dropping her fork with a clatter. "Jesus, Vincent, can't you do anything right?" She'd stopped calling me Dad 2 months ago. "I followed Marie's recipe," I said quietly. "Well, Marie's dead," she snapped. "Maybe it's time to accept that and move on." Something shifted in Anthony's face. Even he looked uncomfortable with that one. "That was uncalled for," I said. "You want to talk about uncalled for?" Brittany stood up. "You want to talk about how you sit around this house all day, contributing nothing, eating our food, using our utilities. Your house? Your food?" I kept my voice level. "Interesting choice of words. What's that supposed to mean?" Anthony's eyes narrowed. I could have kept quiet. Should have, maybe. But I was tired. Tired of being disrespected in my own home. Tired of watching my son become someone I didn't recognize. "It means I know about Summit Property Holdings," I said. "I know about the forged quitclaim deed. I know about the reverse mortgage. And I know who you borrowed that money from." The color drained from Anthony's face. Brittany recovered faster. "You went through our things?" "My things. In my house. That you're trying to steal." Anthony stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "You don't understand, Dad. We were going to tell you. We just needed to forge my signature? Needed to borrow $340,000 from the Russian mob? What exactly did you need that money for, Anthony?" Brittany's face twisted with rage. "You self-righteous old bastard. You sit there judging us. You have no idea what it costs to raise a child, what it costs to live. We needed that money. For what? Your jewelry? His gambling debts? What was worth selling my house out from under me?" "It's not your house anymore," Anthony shouted. "The deed is filed. It's done. And you can't prove the signature was forged. Who's going to believe some senile old man?" That's when he pushed me. I was standing at the top of the basement stairs. He put both hands on my chest and shoved. Hard. I fell backward, tumbled down 13 steps, landed in a heap at the bottom. The pain was immediate and blinding. My hip, my wrist, my ribs, everything hurt. Above me, I heard Brittany laugh. Maybe now he'll finally get the message. "Is he dead?" Anthony's voice, uncertain. "Who cares? Help me with the baby. We're going out." Their footsteps faded. I heard the front door close. The house went silent. I lay there in the dark for a long moment, taking inventory. Hip possibly fractured. Wrist definitely broken. Ribs bruised, maybe cracked. I was bleeding from somewhere on my head, but I was conscious. And I was angry. I pulled out my phone with my good hand, dialed a number I hadn't called in 35 years. Marcus answered on the first ring. "I'll be damned. Vincent Caruso. I thought you were dead." "Not yet." "It's time, Marcus." A pause. "You sure?" "That door doesn't open halfway." "I'm sure. Give me the details." I told him everything. The house, the forged documents, the loan from Volkov, Anthony and Brittany's plan to have me declared incompetent or dead. When I finished, Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed. "Oh, Vincent, your boy borrowed from Alexei Volkov. That stupid? Apparently, you know what this means." "I know exactly what it means. I'll make some calls." "Sit tight." I hung up and closed my eyes. The pain was bad, but I've had worse. Much worse. In my old life, broken bones were part of the job. That's what Anthony never understood. His gentle father, the man who coached his little league team and attended every parent-teacher conference, that man was real. But he was only part of the picture. Before Anthony was born, before I met Marie, I was someone else. I went by a different name, and I did things that would give my son nightmares. I was what they called a cleaner. When problems needed to disappear, I made them disappear. I worked for the DeMarco family out of Newark, 20 years. Never caught, never questioned, never traced. I was a ghost. But then I met Marie, and she gave me an ultimatum. The life, or her. I chose her. DeMarco let me go because I'd been loyal, because I'd made him a lot of money, and because he respected a man who'd walk away for love. I became Vincent Caruso, got a straight job, had a son, lived clean, and for 35 years, nobody from that world knew where I was. Nobody except Marcus. Marcus was my partner back then, the only person from that life I trusted completely. When I left, he stayed, rose through the ranks. Last I heard, he was running most of DeMarco's East Coast operations. I'd called in a favor that had been sitting there for 35 years. Now I just had to wait. I must have passed out from the pain because the next thing I knew, light was streaming through the basement window. Morning. I tried to move and immediately regretted it. My phone showed 6 missed calls from Anthony. Probably realized he might have actually killed me and was worried about the legal complications. I heard the front door open upstairs. Footsteps. The basement door creaked open. "Dad?" Anthony's voice shaking. "Dad, are you down there?" I didn't answer. Oh God. "Brittany, call 911. Are you insane?" Her voice hissed. "If he tells them what happened, he fell. It was an accident." "Nobody's going to believe that, you idiot. He has bruises from last week. If they examine him, so what do we do?" Silence. Then Brittany's voice, cold and calculating. "We wait. If he's not dead yet, he will be soon. Old people die from falls all the time. We just say we found him this morning. That's murder. That's survival. You want Volkov's people to find out we don't have their money. You want to tell them we spent it all? This is the only way out." More silence. Then Anthony's footsteps retreating. The basement door closed. They were going to let me die down here. My own son. I checked my phone. A text from Marcus. "In town. Situation handled. Stay put." 6 hours later, I heard vehicles outside. Heavy footsteps. The front door crashed open. "What the hell?" Anthony's voice, terrified. "Mr. Caruso?" "Sit down." "Shut up." A voice I didn't recognize. Russian accent. "Who are you? You can't just break into our house." "Your house?" The Russian laughed. No. This house belongs to Apex Capital Solutions. You signed it over when you borrowed our money. Did you forget? We're going to pay you back. We just need more time. Time is expensive. And you, my friend, are out of both time and money. I heard Brittany scream, "Don't touch me! Where is Vincent Caruso? He fell. He's in the basement. He might be dead." Might be? Footsteps thundered down the basement stairs. The light flicked on. 3 men stood over me. One of them was Marcus, looking exactly the same except for some gray in his hair. The other 2 were muscle, Russian muscle. "Vincent," Marcus said, kneeling down. "You look like hell. Feel worse. Let's get you out of here." He gestured to the Russians. They lifted me carefully, professionally, carried me up the stairs. In the living room, Anthony and Brittany were on the couch, surrounded by 4 more Russians. One of them was Alexei Volkov himself. I recognized him from the old days. He'd aged, gone gray, but those cold blue eyes were the same. He looked at me, broken and bloody, and smiled. "Vincent Caruso, I heard you were dead. Rumors of my death," I said through the pain. "Marcus tells me these 2 are your family, my son and his wife. And they did this to you?" They pushed me down the stairs, forged my signature to steal my house, borrowed money from you with no intention of paying it back. Volkov's smile disappeared. He turned to Anthony and Brittany. "Is this true?" "It's not what it looks like," Anthony stammered. "We were going to pay you back. We just needed. You spent my money on jewelry and gambling." Marcus showed me the receipts. Volkov stood. "You borrowed $340,000. You've paid back exactly 0, and you did it using a stolen house as collateral. We'll get the money. Just give us time." "I don't think so." Volkov nodded to his men. "Take them." "Wait!" Brittany shrieked. "You can't do this. We have a baby." "Your baby will go to child services. Unless—" "Vincent, what do you want done with them?" Every eye in the room turned to me. Anthony was crying now, understanding finally dawning. Brittany was pale, shaking. I thought about what they'd done. The theft, the abuse, pushing me down the stairs, planning to let me die. I thought about Marie, what she would want. "I want my house back," I said. "I want the deed corrected. I want them out. Today. That's all?" Volkov seemed disappointed. "That's all. What about the money they owe me?" "They'll pay you back. Every cent. But not with my house." Volkov studied me. Then he nodded. "Out of respect for who you were, I'll agree to this. But they will pay. With interest. If they miss a payment, any payment, they're mine. Understood?" I nodded. Volkov turned to Anthony and Brittany. "You have 1 hour to pack your things and leave. The house is his again, and you will pay me $5,000 every month until the debt is cleared. That's 68 months. Miss 1 payment, and I'll take what I'm owed in other ways." "We can't afford that," Brittany whispered. "Then you'll work harder. Get second jobs. Sell everything you own. I don't care. But you will pay." They were escorted out by the Russians. I heard them packing upstairs, heard Brittany sobbing, heard Anthony pleading uselessly. Marcus helped me into a chair. "You need a hospital. I need a minute." We sat there in silence while they packed. Volkov's men went through the house, removing any trace of Summit property holdings. One of them handed me back the original deed, properly recorded. 60 minutes later, Anthony and Brittany came down with suitcases and baby Michael in his carrier. Anthony couldn't look at me. Brittany shot me a look of pure hatred. "You're really going to let them do this?" Anthony asked quietly. "Do what? Hold you accountable for your choices? I'm your son. You pushed me down the stairs. You forged my signature. You stole from me. You were going to let me die." I leaned forward despite the pain. "You stopped being my son when you chose this path. We needed the money. Everyone needs money. Not everyone becomes a thief and an attempted murderer." Brittany snatched up the baby carrier. "This isn't over." "Yes," I said quietly. "It is." They left. Volkov's men followed them out. The house suddenly felt very empty. Marcus sat down across from me. "You went soft, Vincent. In the old days, you would have handled that differently. In the old days, I didn't have a conscience. Marie gave me one. You know they'll tell people about what happened here. Let them. Who's going to believe them? A couple of deadbeats who forged legal documents and borrowed from the Russian mob? They'll sound insane. Marcus smiled. You're still sharp. I'm glad you called me. I'm glad you answered. I owed you. That job in '88, you took the heat from me. Did 6 months because of it. We're square now. We're square. He stood. Get to a hospital. And Vincent? Stay retired. The world's different now. Messier. You wouldn't like it. I don't plan on coming back. This was a one-time thing. Good. He headed for the door, then paused. Your son. You think he'll learn? I don't know. But that's not my problem anymore. After Marcus left, I sat in my quiet house. My hip was screaming. My wrist was definitely broken. I probably had a concussion. But I was home. Really home. For the first time in 2 years. I pulled out my phone and called an ambulance. At the hospital, they x-rayed everything. Fractured hip, broken wrist, 3 cracked ribs, minor concussion. The doctor asked what happened. I fell down the stairs, I said. Someone should stay with you. Do you have family? No, I said. No family. They kept me for 3 days. When I got home, the house was clean. Someone had been through. Removed all traces of Anthony and Brittany, even repainted the scuff marks on the wall. There was a note on the kitchen table in Marcus's handwriting. The nursery furniture is in storage. When you're ready, give it to someone who deserves it. M. I stood in the empty nursery, leaning on my cane. This was supposed to be Michael's room, my grandson's room, but that child was growing up with parents who stole, who lied, who pushed an old man down the stairs. Maybe he'd turn out different. Maybe the struggle of paying back Volkov would teach them something. Or maybe he'd turn out just like them. Either way, it wasn't my responsibility anymore. I sold the nursery furniture to a young couple down the street. Used the money to buy flowers for Marie's grave. I broke my promise, I told her headstone. I used the old connections, but it was necessary. I hope you understand. The wind rustled the trees. I chose to believe. That was her answer. That was 6 months ago. Anthony and Brittany have been making their payments to Volkov. I know because Marcus sends me updates. They're working multiple jobs, living in a small apartment, struggling, but they're paying. They haven't tried to contact me. I haven't tried to contact them. Sometimes I wonder if I should have done something different, been softer, more forgiving. But then I touch my hip, feel the permanent ache there, and I remember lying at the bottom of those stairs, listening to them laugh, listening to them plan to let me die. No, I did exactly what needed to be done. I'm 78 now. I've lived a long life, done terrible things and wonderful things. I raised a son who became a stranger. I loved a woman who saved me from myself. And I learned that sometimes the quietest men are the ones you should fear most. Because we're quiet for a reason. We're quiet because we know what we're capable of. Last week, I ran into Brittany at the grocery store. She saw me, froze, then turned and walked the other way. Her cart was full of generic brands, cheap cuts of meat. She looked tired, older. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel vindication. I felt nothing. And that, more than anything, told me I'd made the right choice. Some people think family means unconditional forgiveness. That blood should excuse any betrayal. Those people have never been pushed down the stairs by their own child. I live alone now. My house is mine again. I have my routines, my quiet life. I visit Marie every Sunday and tell her about my week. I don't have family anymore, but I have peace. And at my age, that's worth more than blood.